Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to everybody. Bekhair beit, as we say in Kurdish. I thought I would begin by telling you a little bit about me and how I discovered Kurdish. And also part of the title was an understudied language. So by telling you about me, it will sort of put that in perspective too. So my name is Michael Chyet, C-H-Y-E-T. I'm a nice Jewish boy from Cincinnati, Ohio. Some people assume that I'm a Kurd. In my heart, I'm a Kurd, perhaps. But so at age 6, in the first grade, I was introduced to my first foreign language, Hebrew. But I'm particularly proud that my father, the rabbi, encouraged me to study Arabic. Hebrew and Arabic are very closely related. Another very important piece of the puzzle is I'm an avid folk dancer. So I still, like yesterday and the day before, I did folk dancing via Zoom, which is how we're doing it now. But folk dancing is largely dances from the Balkans, which is part of the former Ottoman Empire. So dances from Bulgaria and Macedonia and Serbia and Bosnia and Croatia and Albania and Romania, and also dances from Turkey and Armenian dances. I guess I was about 22 years old. I was at UCLA, doing my undergraduate study and going folk dancing on a regular basis. And I remember reading a dance description, and it said, it was a dance from Turkey. So up till that point, all I knew was that it was a Turkish dance. It said, this dance is a dance of the Kurdish minority in Eastern Turkey. When I realized that the people whose dances I really liked were Kurds, I made a beeline to the university library at UCLA looking for textbooks to study Kurdish, because all of the other languages I had studied, I just got a textbook and started studying. Well, to my surprise, there were no actual textbooks, at least not for Kurmanji. I got a Fulbright to go to Turkey to study Turkish dialects. So I ended up going to Ataturk University in Erzurum, a place where people were fiercely Turkish nationalists and where I was not free to mention anything about my interest in the Kurds. So, but the work that I officially went to do, which was study these Turkish dialects, the area was so strictly controlled, they would only give me permission to go for like 5 days to Ordu, for instance, on the Black Sea coast. So I decided to drop that whole topic and to write my dissertation on versions of the Kurdish romance Mamuzin. It's sort of like, it's a tragic love story, sort of like Romeo and Juliet. And I found, I think, 19 versions of it, mostly in Kurmanji, one long one in Sorani, the two main dialects of Kurdish. I'm going to get into that, the difference between them soon. There were also 3 in one of the Neo-Aramaic dialects spoken by the Christians in Kurdistan, and a couple in Armenian, which a folklore classmate of mine translated for me. So with those 18 versions, I decided, since I was a folklorist, to do a comparative folkloristic analysis of the story of Mamuzin. Kurdish is an Indo-European language closely related to Persian. Now, for the Indo-European languages, imagine a tree with many branches. One branch is the Germanic branch, English, German, Dutch, and the Scandinavian languages, and also Yiddish or Germanic. The languages derive from Latin, the Romance languages, French, Italian, Spanish, Italian, also Catalan and Provençal, and Romanian, and the dialects in Switzerland, Romansh. Those are all daughter languages of Latin. Then the Slavic languages, Russian and Polish and Ukrainian and Belarusian and Czech and Slovak and Bulgarian, Macedonian, Serbo-Croatian, and Slovenian. So each one of these is a branch. And so Kurdish is the Indo-Aryan branch. So the Aryan part refers to Sanskrit and its daughter languages, Hindi and Urdu and Nepali and Punjabi, etc. And that's the Indo part, sorry. The Aryan part refers to the Iranian languages, so Persian and Kurdish and Baluchi and Pashto and the Ossetic dialect spoken in the Caucasus. And there are some other Kurdistani languages, such as Zaza and Gorani or Haurami, which are spoken by people who identify themselves as Kurds. So the light green is Kurmanji. The dark green with Dohok in it is southern Kurmanji. That region is called Behdinan, so it's called Behdini or Behdinani. The yellow region is Sorani or Central Kurdish, and then the brown region at the bottom is Southern Kurdish, also known as Kalhori, and that is the least standardized. The differences from village to village there are much greater than. There's an overall similarity in Sorani, and I mean there are certainly regional differences. And then Kurmanji basically is it's mutually intelligible everywhere. Kurmanji is spoken then in Turkey and in Syria and in about half of Iraqi Kurdistan and in a relatively small area of Iranian Kurdistan, but it's all one contiguous area. Then Sorani is spoken in the other half of Iraqi Kurdistan. And I would say the majority of Iranian Kurds speak one or another variety of Central Kurdish, Sorani. So in the north, Mahabad, it is in a region just south of Lake Urmia called Mukrian. And that is sort of transitional to Kurmanji in the way that Behdini is Kurmanji, but transitional to Sorani. So Mukriani is, by the same token, it's Sorani, but it's transitional to Kurmanji. And then south of that, when you get down to Sanandaj, Sinna, as it's called in Kurdish. So I realized that because of all the languages that I had studied before Kurdish, I had a unique ability to continue to study Kurdish and to put things into English where there hadn't been hardly any literature in English. And one of the things I started to do was to make a dictionary for myself. And after a while, I realized that other people might also be able to benefit from this. So eventually that became the first edition of my dictionary. And then just this past January, the second edition came out in 3 volumes. And my partner, Christopher, together with Luqman, who's in the audience here, made this design. Now, these are Kurdish words, some of them in the Latin alphabet and some in the Arabic alphabet. Kurdish has been written in 3 alphabets, Latin, Arabic, and a Cyrillic alphabet in Armenia and in the lands of the Soviet Union. But since 1989, they have slowly been transferring over to transitioning to the Latin alphabet. So now basically the Latin and the Arabic alphabets are both used. So this is also in my dictionary, but so here's the Roman. It's called Hawar because the first publication that used it was a publication called Hawar, which came out in Damascus in the 1930s and 1940s. So here's the Roman, here's the Cyrillic in the middle, and here's the Arabic. And there's a simple one-on-one correspondence between the three of them, which means that you could program a computer to flip from one to the other. So Kurmanji is written in both, well, was at one time written in all three, but in Iraqi Kurdistan, they still write it in the Arabic alphabet. In Syria, interestingly, as well as in Turkey and in Iraq, they tend to use, Iran, they tend to use the Latin alphabet. I think it's significant that the Syrian Kurds choose to write Kurdish in a different alphabet than the official Arabic language of the country. I think they see themselves as a true linguistic minority, and by using a different alphabet, I think they're maintaining their identity as separate from the Arabic-speaking Syrians. The first person to come up with the one-on-one correspondence between the three alphabets was a Kurdish linguist from the Soviet Union named Kurdoyev. In the process of working on my dictionary, I have come up with a methodology, which I have started giving talks about and sharing with Kurds themselves, and that is, if you have, and I'm focusing mostly on the two big dialects, Kurmanji and Sorani. So if you have a word which has multiformity in one dialect and uniformity in another dialect, you need to do the research to know that. So for instance, the way to say in Kurmanji is goten. In Sorani, you can say witten or kutin in other regions, or goten. So in Sorani, you have goten as well as witten and kutins. So my suggestion is to choose goten for both Kurmanji and Sorani. That is one step towards just bringing them closer to each other for mutual intelligibility. And I mean, there are many examples of things like that. When you have several forms to choose from, if you consciously choose the one that's closer to the other dialect, it will make mutual intelligibility easier. Now, I'm not saying flush the regional variations down the toilet. I think people should be very proud of coming from a particular region and keep those regional modes of speech alive. But as with Arabic, where you have Fusha, the written language, which is the same from Morocco to Iraq, and everyone speaks Amiya, a local dialect. So in standardizing Kurmanji and Sorani, I'm arguing for a standardized form of Kurmanji, which from Adiyaman to Acre, the two ends of the Kurmanji speaking area. Envision embracing people's differences and being curious about the other dialect, not considering mine right and yours wrong, but they're all Kurdish. Well, I'm interested in areal features. And in an area, several languages which are unrelated that live in the same, where the people that have lived side by side for generations, and many people are bilingual or multilingual, will incorporate into their language features of the neighboring unrelated language. So Neo-Aramaic, both Nina and Toroyo, and Kurdish, both Kurmanji and Sorani, and Persian, and Western Armenian share a common verb system for the indicative mood of the present tense, which consists of a continuous tense marker plus the present tense verb stem plus the personal ending. So here's just for I see, and so in Kurmanji it would be debinum, in Sorani it would be debinum or ebinum, and I'm suggesting debinum be the standard because it's closer to debinum in Kurmanji. In Persian it's mi binam, the same root, and in Western Armenian gedesnem. Nina, Northeastern Neo-Aramaic, it's kechazen masculine, kechazyan, feminine. In some regions, that ka becomes I, and they'd say ichazin and ichazyan. And in Turoyo, kohozeno, koheziono would be the feminine. So all of them have the same structure. That it's realized differently, but each one of these languages, which are spoken side by side and have been for centuries, has a continuous tense marker, whether it's ka or ko or da or mi or ga, and then the present tense of the verb, whatever that is, and then the personal ending.